Hey guys, welcome to the Huddle. It's Friday, and we have quite the show for you. A sex scandal that has led to a tragedy and questions now in the House about whether they could lose their majority before, yes, you heard me right, before the midterms. We're also going to talk about an 11th hour surge happening in the Texas primaries. And no, we are not talking about John Cornyn, unfortunately for the GOP establishment. We're going to talk about Democrats and who they chose for the State of the Union to respond to the president. We'll talk about the president's trip to Georgia and some things he said about affordability that Susie Wiles is probably not super happy with at this moment. We'll do our traditional winners and losers, but I have to start with something fun here because it's Friday. Out of this world aliens. President Trump talking about aliens. Let me just back up for a second. Over the weekend, former President Barack Obama was asked on a podcast if he believed in aliens. Were aliens real? And he said yes. He said, I haven't seen them. There's no Area 51 or anything like that I know of, unless they're hiding it from the president. And President Trump was asked about this yesterday by Peter Doocy from Fox News. Let's take a listen to what he said.
Obama said that aliens are real. Have you seen any evidence of non-human visitors to Earth?
Well, he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. You know?
So aliens are real?
Well, I don't know if they're real or not. I can tell you he gave classified information. He's not supposed to be doing that. He made a big mistake. He took it out of classified information. No, I don't have an opinion on it. I never talk about it. A lot of people do. A lot of people believe it. Do you believe it, Peter?
Look at him smiling right there. You can see Caroline Levitt smiling in the background. And then a few hours later, because this totally set the Twitter on fire, of course, the social media on fire, he truthed this. Let's bring up this element real quickly. I will be directing the Secretary of War to begin the process of identifying and releasing government files related to aliens, UFOs, and other things. God bless America. Sean, you have some theories about this. And I don't mean about whether ET is real or not, but what is the president doing here?
Well, let's step back a second. What Obama was asked on that podcast, he said, "Are aliens real?" And he said, "Yeah, they're real." Period. Now, if you're asking, are they kept at Area 51, or he said, or that place, and the host said, "You mean Area 51?" He said, "Yeah." Then no, that. So he confirmed the existence of extraterrestrial life, and that was a period. He said, "Yeah, they're real." Now, if you're asking about that place, no, we don't store them there. So what President Trump did, though, was absolutely brilliant on Air Force One, is he acknowledged that Obama has let classified information out, right? A spillage. The trick that he just let Obama walk into is when you have classified information, you can't confirm or deny it. So now if Obama comes back, he actually gets himself deeper into trouble because once you get it, it's called spillage. Like once you get it out there, getting it back in the bottle is actually the hardest part. So he sort of allowed Obama to now get trapped into this idea that if he comes out now and says, no, there isn't, then he's equally, he's now kind of put himself in this little bottle. So, I love what the president has done.
Can I just say that that's the most crazy thing I've ever heard.
I was going to say, you're taking this way too seriously.
I only have a little bit of sleep going. That's why I'm not in a drag. I got back from an event last night at midnight to the city, but maybe they'll prosecute Obama for releasing classified information.
You heard it here on the Huddle. You heard it here on the Huddle.
Maybe we'll do it at Mar-a-Lago with the documents in the closet and Obama's going to jail. I will just say to start your morning.
The upside is he could get a place next to Hillary.
There you go. Is that GDP missed really badly? They expected it to
talk about shifting subject.
To be 2.8. It was 1.4, half of what they expected. And I am trying to find this, but it sounds like inflation also may have picked back up. Again, 1 month, but good news, bad news continues in the economy.
Well, that's because the aliens are stealing our jobs, Dan. We've got to lock down the country.
Deport them. Deport the aliens.
You heard what Obama said.
Aliens that are criminals.
And see, I was expecting a little lighthearted conversation at the top of the show about how the president was playing with the media and the press and like just riding what is a fun narrative out there. And instead, here we are.
Stealing our jobs, Rachel.
Once again, he's following
Biden,
Obama.
Let them in. Let the aliens in.
Okay, so but let's talk as Dan just said on those numbers just very briefly. Dan, you said it was 1.4.
Yeah.
Just for perspective, guys, the GDP between July and September grew 4.4. So this is quite a dip on that. And the president has long sort of said that this number is an indicator of whether or not the economy is healthy. So that's going to be not great news for him going into State of the Union week, obviously. Let's just go through the rest of the day book here. 9:30, the president's going to be hosting some governors at the White House. We talked a little bit about this a couple of days ago, but basically, traditionally, the National Governors Association goes to the White House, meets with the president, but President Trump disinvited Wes Moore and Jared Polis, and because of that, I think officially NGA is not going, but some governors are going.
There's a breakfast and a dinner, and then tomorrow another, like a black tie. Those are all still on. They are just not officially NGA sanctioned events. So every one of the events is still happening.
Dan, who do you think goes? And what Democrat governors do you think go?
I don't know. I mean, I think most of them will go, but just like State of the Union, handful won't, and it'll never be the same.
Can I just say for the record, just so everyone winds, for all of Wes Moore's last year, he never accepted the invitation and didn't go. So for all of his whining last year, when he was invited, he didn't go. And now he's pissed that he wasn't invited. I mean, let's just add some full context to the story.
Let's move on.
But we do need to also add that Trump is the first person to not invite people. I mean, it's
traditionally,
true.
Nice people.
Yeah, but it's kind of like if you don't show up for the first one, you don't get excited. You don't get invited back. That's why you always got to RSVP, Dan. Always got to RSVP.
At 10 o'clock, the Supreme Court could potentially issue rulings. I mean, we've had this head fake before, but of course, we're going to be watching that to see if anything comes out today about on tariffs, on birthright citizenship. What was the other one? Tariffs, birthright citizenship. There's a third
Voting Rights Act.
Voting Rights Act. That's right.
Can I just real quick, Rachel? The thing is, you have today, then Tuesday, Wednesday. Tuesday, Wednesday are both days in which they hear cases and State of the Union. So the reason I say that is it would be weird today, but if you don't go today, you really are pushing it off another whole little bit. So it'll be really interesting what happens at 10 o'clock because they're kind of backing themselves into a corner a little.
Do you think on the tariff thing, would Republicans does the president just wants to get this over with and no, right? or is it better to drag? I would assume
that's what he said on the stage.
The midterms. Yeah.
I mean, in a way, I'd want to know because I could also the quicker you can pivot to trade dispute mechanisms and the better. But it's not, again, now you suddenly have to give back money. I mean, it's just a whole headache that you don't want. I mean, unless they rule if they rule in your favor, you're like, let's go.
Yeah.
If they don't, or it's a mixed decision, I think it's one more headache that you don't want to be dealing with.
Yeah. I don't think they want to be talking about fixes and solutions.
Right.
I think Republican members of Congress do not want to have this conversation. They want.
Nobody does. Nobody does.
But you have to have it. Better to have it sooner when you have some time to recover before those midterms. 2 o'clock, Treasury Secretary Bessent's going to be delivering remarks at the Economic Club of Dallas. 3 o'clock, he's going to be touting Trump accounts at a barbecue joint in Texas as well.
Sounds right.
Let's do a quick, I should do housekeeping, actually. Reminder, guys, we have State of the Union on Tuesday. Join us 15 minutes before the program. We'll talk about some dynamics we're going to be looking for. You can stay with us throughout the State of the Union. You'll hear us gabbing a little bit in the background, though we'll mostly be listening, obviously, to the president. And then after the show, we will give you some of our top takeaways and continue to discuss that on the show the next day. Just a reminder, today we have our premium subscription conversation. Dan is going to be the one taking additional questions. So right after the show, jump out, join him on the Zoom. And if you're not a premium subscription member but want more time with us, reminder, you can sign up $10 a month, $100 a year. You get each of us once a month, and then all three of us once a month as well. Let's do a quick word from sponsor. Sean or Dan? Either of you? Who wants to?
I'll tell you, I'll be glad to, because I was laughing so hard yesterday when the show ended. And I know I say it all the time, but I was laughing. I'm sitting there. I actually held my leg up. If you guys saw, I didn't mean to.
Can you do that? Are you that flexible? Can you get it?
No, but I have to, there's bands that are involved.
Okay. All right.
But I can tilt.
Yep.
But I was laughing because I was like, I know I say it all the time, but I get a kick out of every time when I laugh to myself. That's what 55-year-old men do. It's like an internal dad joke. When I realized I really am wearing Cozy Earth all the time. I mean, between the t-shirt, the joggers, the pajamas, the eye mask, the towels. I mean, it has become a staple in our household. And as I said, it is such a great thing for you or for yourself to have unbelievable, cozy, comfortable, breathable things to wear morning till night, overnight, if you choose to join me in wearing the eye mask. And then, you know, you wake up and you can always think about that person you're trying to give a birthday gift to, a St. Patrick's Day gift, or, hey, you just got a new book gift, whatever. But it's like Cozy Earth is perfect for everything. Go to CozyEarth.com, use our code HUDDLE for 20% off, and you will not be disappointed. CozyEarth.com, use our code HUDDLE.
All right, guys. Thanks to Cozy Earth. Let's jump in. So we're going to start with President Trump and this sort of split screen on him we saw yesterday. So he has officially given Iran his famous 2-week deadline. He told reporters on Air Force One yesterday that Iran has between 10 and 15 days to make a deal or else. Now, we know that he often says this on a deadline, right? Like somebody has 2 weeks. And last time around, it ended up being a head fake. He said 2 weeks, and then he ended up giving the order to strike Iran within 48 hours or something like this. But one of the top headlines was actually down in Georgia yesterday, where the president claims to have won the affordability issue. Let me pull up one of these quotes here. Yeah, he was complaining to reporters during the Georgia trip that they keep asking about affordability. He says, I have to listen to the fake news talking about affordability. You notice that word what word have you not heard over the last 2 weeks? Affordability, because I've won affordability. I had to go out and talk about it. Sean, this is obviously not the message that you would think the inner circle would want him to take to the State of the Union. What do they do between now and Tuesday to remind him, sir, affordability is still a big issue for people. And yes, we have accomplishments we can tout, but we cannot say we've won and conquered this issue.
Yeah, first of all, you don't ever say, here's what you can't do to Donald Trump. That's number one. Number two is I think
you got to address it somehow.
No. But the answer is, to me, actually, I've had this conversation with literally 4 or 5 different pollsters on my show. He just needs to say, I've done a lot to make life more affordable. It's getting better from Biden. I know there's more to do, and I'm going to do it, and I'm working on it. I mean, it's that simple. It's backed up by fact. The idea that it was worse, it's getting better, and there's still work to do. It's a simple thing. And frankly, I don't see any conflict with the thing with Trump is, I know he wants to say I won, but sometimes when the dog catches the car, that's the problem. I mean, to be honest with you, it's part of the problem on the border. He did such a great job securing the border so quickly. People pocketed it. Okay, border security's done. So it actually is a helpful political message to say, hey, things are much better than they were. I'm continuing to fight for you. My policies are working. I'm going to continue to get it. Because if you've already won and you're 1 year in, right, it actually could. If I were the staff, I would say, Mr. President, remember, you got 3 years to go. So what we don't want to do is declare victory in the first quarter. We have 3 more to play. So let's keep talking about how much greater it's going to get.
Dan, odds are that he will be able to deliver that nuanced message, or are you betting he's just going to declare victory and your team is just going to love this?
I think on the State of the Union, because it's a more scripted, formal event, he'll be on message. They'll get, whatever, 24 hours or maybe less of that. I think that the challenge and the reason Democrats are kind of smiling today is, if I look at the headlines of the papers across the state of Georgia, and I look at the headlines across cable news and across, the country, right? I see things about the U.S. has committed $10 billion with no answer to the Middle East. I see Iran, we may, as you said, there's 2 more weeks. And I see things about aliens and about we won on affordability. No one has in their messaging or their stories what Sean said, which is what J.D. Vance said to Fox News.
Yeah.
We inherited a mess. We've done a lot of things. It's going to be getting better, right? Kind of the 1, 2, 3 kind of sequencing of what Republicans would like to talk about. So the problem is, he's right. It hasn't been in the news, affordability, for 2 weeks, because he's talking about everything else. And I was in Pennsylvania. The reason I got back to New York City late last night was I was invited to a dinner in Philadelphia with a bunch of mostly Republican MAGA people, pollsters, elected officials, former elected officials. I can't disclose a lot of, who was there. But I will just tell you the idea that affordability has been won in the state of Pennsylvania is not a winning message.
Yeah,
it is
definitely.
just not. And they were saying this, again, it was off the record. I won't go into, too much, but every day that he's talking about other things and saying that basically it's over, the mission is not accomplished.
Yeah. Just since we brought up Iran, I want to bring up a couple things here. So there are signs that the president, once again, we kind of know this, he really doesn't want to go there in terms of the suspended military campaign there. Contrary to what Axios had reported earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal is now reporting that he's considering a limited initial strike intended to pressure Iran to the table.
Wow. Where did they get, who said that? And I mean, that sounds so familiar. I don't know.
But it's a little different than just a couple days ago when the reporting was suggesting that it would be this long, like weeks long.
But not Sean Spicer's reporting. Sean Spicer's reporting.
But here's why this doesn't make sense to me. I love the like come to Jesus. I said this yesterday. If you actually, any real reporter would have said, well, if you're going to have a long sustained war, where's the follow-on troop presence? Where are the LHDs carrying the Marines? Where's the Army staging? It doesn't take a degree from Carlisle or Newport to understand this. And this is what frustrates me so many times in the reporting, is that these guys speculate about stuff without actually talking to people who do this for a living. It doesn't take much. If you stage a bunch of naval assets that can fire missiles from the water, you generally don't have a massive follow-on force. So it just didn't pass the smell test, what people were, quote unquote, reporting.
Sure. Well, you heard it right. You heard it first from Sean Spicer yesterday.
I don't know about that, because the reporting now, which you've indicated a little bit, Sean, but there's a difference, is that the Trump administration wants to do just enough damage to try to get them to come talk. But the ultimate question is, are they going to try to take out the regime? Whether you could do that by air, or you could attempt to do it by air. We don't know if the Israelis are not willing to go in on the ground. They're silent on that, which tells me that may be deafening. But I think it goes to this sense that, and you've said this, Sean, we talked about it yesterday, Trump he knows the stakes are massive politically, that this could go off the rails instantly. Yeah. And to end, I mean, if we are literally going in and stuck in Iran, it is the worst domestic political situation to be in. Very quickly,
because we got to move on. Sean, do you think, I mean, like a limited strike, it didn't work last time, right? They didn't come to the table.
Their nuclear capabilities. I mean,
whether or not we're back talking about it.
No. Whether or not what we're talking about is whether or not they're continuing to do it. It was taken down. There's no question about that.
And then it came back.
Iran is now trying to build them back up.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, it wasn't successful in breaking them and, and like getting to them a position where they're actually really going to commit to a deal here. Why would we think a limited strike would do that this time around?
Oh, I don't. I mean, look, as far as I'm concerned, why didn't the Iran nuclear deal work? Because they can't be trusted. They will never. I mean, they'll tell you whatever you want to your face. I mean, the idea that we had inspections before was a joke, right? You guys can look over here, but not over here where we actually have it. It was a complete and utter joke. That time we sent them pallets of cash, though. Look, I don't think you can ever trust the Iranians. I think they will constantly try to reconstitute any kind of weaponry and capabilities that they have. So my position is you can never trust them. But the question I think that the administration is asking is, can we sort of, blunt them for a while and buy time? I mean, that's what everybody in the U.S. government has done, frankly, is said, like, how can we punt this till somebody else's problem?
Let's talk about Democrats announcing their State of the Union response speakers. They've picked Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger. And I'm hearing that sort of leadership, they chose her for two reasons. Number one, she flipped a red to blue district in 2018. She did it again in the gubernatorial mansion here in Virginia. talking about the issue that Democrats obviously want to be the center of the midterms and likely will: affordability, affordability, affordability. Now, you guys probably both like her as a speaker, but for very different reasons. But I'm going to start with Dan here. Your sort of reaction to them picking her. I mean, you're a fan.
Yeah, no, I am. And I think, look, the other thing is, for all the talk about the left being out of control and the tail wagging the dog, look at who they chose, right? That is Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer putting up and I know, Sean may not see it, but to the average person, the governor of Virginia is a moderate, right? Just if I say that title, I know you can roll your eyes. And
Sean's rolling his eyes for those listening to the
She has all the counters, which, by the way, there's a great story in the New York Times about I think it's the Republican leader in the House who says how awful she is and doesn't talk to anybody and doesn't do whatever. She takes her cell phone out to the reporter and shows all of his text messages and their phone logs. In other words,
that's so funny.
He's full of crap, right? So I think, and then Padilla, the senator from California, again, not considered necessarily a total bomb thrower, right? It's not Elizabeth Warren. It's not. So I keep saying this: we date and then we marry the more moderate people. And it to me, it's like, okay, you're putting up a figure who at least comes across to the average person as reasonable and moderate. And as you say, she has flipped stuff and she won huge. So, I mean, Sean will have his disagreements on how she's governing, but
that's the difference between Democratic leaders and the Democratic base, right? I mean, the leadership picked her; they get to. That's their prerogative.
Let's just be clear on that. Actually, it's not the leadership that picked her; it alternates. So the Senate chooses, then the House chooses. So this was Schumer's pick, right? And I think,
but he talks to Jeffries. I mean,
but the reason I say this is I think that had this been Hakeem has got some cover on this, which is. I didn't pick her. It was Schumer, right? And Schumer, I think, made a smart move. I will give him from an optic standpoint. But if Hakeem had picked her and it was his choice, I think he'd be getting crapped on from the base, saying that was your choice.
But his name is on the press release,
yeah,
right?
No, he won it. And look, Sean, go back to what AOC said on election night when she was pressed, because don't forget, Spanberger and Mickey Sherrill faced primaries, right? And they asked her. They both did. In the gubernatorial races, neither did was unopposed, and they asked AOC about how do you square Mamdani with Spanberger, and AOC famously said Abigail Spanberger was the right candidate for her state. Right? I think Jeffries totally gets it. He knows where the majority's going to come from.
I think he gets it, Dan. You're right. I'm not debating that. What I'm debating is the pressure on him to choose a spokesperson to combat Trump would have been, I think, a lot greater to say, you got to be kidding. Choose one of us. We're the fighters. Okay. I think he probably politically gets it. Personally, I think the pressure would have been a lot different on him.
The challenge is the counter programming down the street. I mean, that's going to be this problem.
No. Look, so like, everyone watching the huddle gets, like, we all watch this stuff. We all pay attention to the nuances. The average American does not stay up to watch the response, whether it's a Republican or Democrat. I mean, it's just, and I will say this, the track record for most responses on a bipartisan basis is not strong.
Pretty bad. Yeah.
Here's the thing that I will be interested in.
How she performs.
Is that, to Dan's point, technically, I'm trying to even remember, I don't think that, did she even have, I mean, if she did have a primary opponent, it wasn't significant. And Winsome Sears did not put up a great, I mean, there was not, my point in this is we talk about AOC going over to Munich and finally taking a quote political punch, like wow, frankly, that wasn't even a punch because it was just a question. How does Spanberger do? And also, how does she do at that level? Like taking a big swing in a big park is a lot different than standing in the sandlot and taking a swing with your buddies in a stickball. So I think how she handles herself will be interesting because it's not just the speech, it's the reaction, it's the interviews. And frankly, as I said, maybe I'm too close to this because I live here, but this woman has destroyed this state in an epic record amount of time. And how she handles questions about Boeing leaving, the issues on redistricting, tax increases, gun grabs, First Amendment. I mean, like, it has been an absolute left-wing progressive takeover of Virginia. And I think, can she handle
All in a
Heat.
couple weeks, Sean. It's
All
going to be
in
a
a
long
couple
4
weeks.
years for you, my friend.
And by the way, her team, someone with her reminded me in their own data, they're at 65% approval. So it's amazing. It's amazing what
one
she's
last
done in
thought
2 weeks.
on this address, though. We should keep in mind that.
Well, by
she's
the way,
gonna
Dan,
have-
I will tell you that just as a side note, that has more to do with the fecklessness of Virginia Republicans than it does with her strength. I will. I mean, that's you don't even get me going on how bad this has been in Virginia.
This is going to be, she will have a teleprompter. So it's not like, I mean, Spanberger, I've covered her for a long time. She's not known for being like super quick on her feet. Like she's very practiced with reporters, very on talking point. So it's not like a debate where, you could like catch her off guard. This is going to be scripted and it is very, high pressure. But like,
but I remember like Bobby
not that
Jindal,
hard. It's not that
right?
hard, I guess. But
I mean, it's not just, but it's not just, it's like the setting. Right? What does it look like? Do you look like you're sitting there reading the teleprompter, or do you? I mean, I go back to Bobby Jindal, who like got just crushed for that. There's so many people have failed this because it's so hard. And you're coming, by the way, you're coming after the master, like you're coming after Trump.
And also, you remember, you're giving a speech that's technically a response that's pre-written to something that you don't know.
You don't know what he's going to say.
Also, and just to be clear, like Bob McDonald was the last Virginia governor to give a response. He gave it in the House of Delegates, very well staged. So to Dan's point, I think this is another thing. We'll talk about this when we go live Tuesday night. But I'm just telling you, this can't be understated. The idea of what does it look like? How are you pitching yourself? Katie Britt, did that thing at her home last, and I think it looked great. There was a lot of critique about how she gave it. Marco obviously famously gave his from the Capitol, but he had the water, right?
Oh my gosh,
and so the optics are 90. I would say probably 90% of the time. You're talking about the optics.
And it's clearly not career killing because look at where Marco Rubio is, and that was a horrendous.
But Katie Britt, I think we would all admit, Katie Britt was a little bit of a rocket ship at the time within the Republican Party. And
no, I disagree. I still think she's a rocket ship in the
No.
Like she was then, though.
But right, no. To Dan's point, Katie Britt everybody was kind of paying attention.
VP,
I agree with you both. Like I think Katie is back on that trajectory. She is very well spoken. Yes, she's telegenic. She takes up the right issues, but. Admittedly, and I have never talked to her about this, but I would say that probably a lot of us will say that when you look at yourself, can say that wasn't the best day that I ever had, right?
Made Saturday Night Live. So.
But also, I will say this: I don't think that was Katie's. Shut up, Dan.
Oh, that's true.
I don't think that was Katie's fault. I blame her consultants for that. They tried to script her too much.
Yeah.
Katie, as a person, comes across as very likable, very knowledgeable.
She is.
I think
she's awesome.
The people that did that to her put her in literally were like, this dates me. This is like Greg Brady in The Suit. It was not meant to be.
Yeah. Let's move on to Illinois and Texas politics. So we haven't talked about him much when we talk about the Texas primaries, but Wesley Hunt is suddenly a threat to the two top dogs in this race. On the GOP side, he has drawn $9.3 million worth of attack ads from groups backing Ken Paxton and John Cornyn, like just in the past few weeks. And it seems like, even though we have all sort of looked at him as this sort of nuisance who jumped in to raise his own name ID and has his own future ambitions, but had no chance of winning. All of a sudden, Team Cornyn appears to be a little concerned that maybe Wesley Hunt is the one who makes the runoff. How big of a threat? Like, do you think that this is a real threat, Sean, or is this just Cornyn and Paxton covering their bases?
Look, two ways. One, Wesley Hunt is a congressman from a big state, right? So whether it's Texas or California, I don't think I am a Wesley Hunt fan. His story is fantastic. I wish he stayed in the House like John James in Michigan, because they're just great members that have a great story. But Wesley it does not have a statewide name and following, right? He represents a Houston district. And I say that because in a situation like this, it's all about the ground, getting your people out, making sure they're dragging people to the polls, casting that ballot, et cetera, et cetera. Paxton's run statewide, obviously multiple times. Cornyn's run statewide. They have massive amounts of data, money, in people that precinct operations, etc. Right? That matters huge. That's what Wesley Hunt does not have. Okay. That being said, when you're running in a 3-way primary, low turnout in March, anything can happen. And I think to have a bunch of money thrown your way at the end, maybe he gets 27% and suddenly that slides you barely into second place. So yes, to answer your question, I'd still be worried as heck, because how much is he taking? Where is he taking? Is he taking Cornyn voters or Paxton voters? And polling in a primary like this, especially a 3-way, is unbelievably challenging.
Yeah.
Sean,
kidding.
if it's Hunt and Paxton, are the Cornyn people comfortable, the Cornyn voters, going to Hunt? Paxton they view with all of his scars, but would they feel comfortable? Because I would wonder if those two together, from a coalition standpoint, creates a problem for Paxton.
Yeah.
I think, look, I would say this. If I were a DC establishment, John Thune kind of guy,
George W. Bush guy, yeah.
George W. Bush guy, and it became a Paxton Hunt race, all the DC money flows to Hunt.
Yeah.
And if Tallarico wins the D side, which I don't think he will, but if he did, so let's say you wake up the next day, it's Tallarico, that's it. He's won it. He's raising money. 50 million's come in the first month. If you're the James Blair and Susie Wiles and it's Hunt and Paxton, what do you do?
Oh, I mean, to be honest with you, that would be interesting, because the president has said this. I like all 3 guys. I actually, I don't know. I would put it this way. When you have $400 million, which they do, I would do a ton of polling and find out what the real, it's one thing to have a bunch of DC folks tell you that Ken Paxton can't win. That's what they're going to tell you because they don't like him. But I would go in and really do a deep dive and find out, can we pull this off with Paxton? If you can, Paxton's been with you forever. I mean, look, at the end of the day, one of the things that people have to, recognize is President Trump understands that his second term, the second half of the second term matters. If you lose the Senate, you lose the agenda, you lose your ability to get your nominees through. And so I look, my 2 cents on this is, this will be a lot of, if you're a pollster in Texas, you will make a ton of money if it goes down to those 2.
Let's head north to Illinois, where AIPAC is once again facing blowback for getting involved in Democratic primaries. Headline from last night: Jan Schakowsky is withdrawing her endorsement from a Democrat she had endorsed in a neighboring district in the Chicago area because that person, Donna Miller, who's a longtime friend of Schakowsky, took money from AIPAC. Like, is this going to now be a new thing where you cannot support a Democratic candidate if they're taking AIPAC money?
It's going to become a thing for a lot of Democrats. I can't emphasize enough. I mean, this was happening already, but what happened in New Jersey, where AIPAC went so heavily against somebody that the caucus would say was very moderate on Israel, not 100% lockstep anymore, but very moderate, to simply say, hey, we should maybe condition some of this, not end it, not be, pro-Palestinian, that AIPAC went bananas against this guy. It is, I think a lot of people in the Democratic caucus now are going to not take their money, and it is going to become a litmus test. And I keep saying this, it is not in Israel's interest to be only with one party. And even that party's got its own issues with you. See Iran, right? I know why Israel wants us in there. Again, if this goes sideways, I think on Sean's side of the aisle, it's going to blow this all up. But yeah, it's a problem. It's a huge problem in the Democratic Party right now.
By the way, I think the point that Dan just made really is something that needs to get explored more, which is if we go after Iran and Israel plays some kind of large role or whatever, they're really putting themselves at risk with their further standing in America. And I think I wonder how much that's in the calculus of Netanyahu, which is, I got to be really careful with this because I can't lose more of American support.
But he
Well,
has to also think that this is his moment, right? There's never going to be an American president that is as sympathetic to him
Good point.
as is
Yeah.
right now.
Well, I mean, look, I think we all agree.
Yeah.
We're on the precipice of this, not because the United States is threatened imminently, but because Israel feels that this is their chance to clean up their neighborhood.
Well, this gets back to what we talked about the other day, which is what is the why? And if the why is because Israel wants it, that doesn't sell too well.
Yeah. Let's move on because we got a lot to get to still. So we haven't talked about this on this program yet, but one of the big pieces of news that has people buzzing here in Washington and around the country who follow the House in particular, there has been news of an alleged affair between centrist Tony Gonzalez of Texas and an aide. And not only that, but that this aide last year killed herself. She set herself on fire. He has denied this and is accusing opponents basically of coming after him. But now we're talking about an ethics investigation into this here in Washington. It used to be that when allegations like this came out, John Boehner, Paul Ryan, they'd call you into their office and they'd tell you it's time to go. I've covered a number of them. I'm Pelosi with Katie Hill. She had a relationship with an underling in her office. I'm thinking of Trent Franks when there was reporting, actually it was my story, that he had asked aides in his office to carry his child because him and his wife were having trouble conceiving. And that led to his ouster as well. So a lot of people have been told to leave for less. That is not likely to happen here because of the slim majority, but there is still potential for Democrats to try to tee up a vote at some point to oust this guy. And we've already got to think about how narrow the majority is. Sean, like, how concerned are Republicans that they could lose their majority before the midterms here?
Oh, I think very. I mean, look, you're going to get a little bit of a breathing room so you got a 1-seat majority now. Marjorie Taylor's vacated seat will have a new member in a couple of weeks. That gets it back to 2. The Gonzalez, now remember, there's a primary in Texas. The Gonzalez is facing a very strong primary. That doesn't solve you in the short term, but it would take some heat off Johnson, which is if Gonzalez lost his primary and you had a new person going in, they'd say, well, he's already leaving. He's not going to be back next term. Like, let's it gives Johnson some out, right? So it doesn't help, but it gives him the ability to say to members, hey guys, he's already leaving. Like, we don't need to have a vote to expel him, right? It's a talking point. But you also have this issue in Florida where you've got a member of Congress that's announced he's not running, rumored to have some serious health issues and saying, I may leave before the term. That would be the end. You would literally, they would call a motion, on the chair vacate the chair. If I were Democrats, you would reorganize. I mean, it's potentially very, very concerning is the answer.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal. And if I were a Democrat, you'd really start to think. Now, again, you've got to remember short-term, long-term. So if you're Hakeem Jeffries, do you really want to make sure that you're doing, like, is this worth the squeeze right now? Because let's face it, you feel good if you're Jeffries about taking it. If you want to do a hostile takeover, politically speaking, which is what it would, be the equivalent of a corporate takeover. Are you willing to deal with that? Because suddenly you become speaker, in 6 months on your own, potentially. And then you've got Republicans that say, okay, you want to go this? Now I'm coming after every one of your members.
Oh, but the base would just love it, wouldn't they?
Oh, I know. I get it. And I'm saying, but to your question, if I were Johnson, this goes back to what we talked about before about the whip operation. I would be doing nightly bed checks, making sure that nobody's ever driving after one beer. Like, you need to have your members in line.
And by the way, when we were talking about them losing the majority just a few months ago, could it happen? Like somebody said to me, these were the 2 things that this person brought up. Gonzalez, the investigation, is off the record at the time, so I couldn't talk about it. That one, and then the other one was this member in Florida who's having health issues. So anyway, Dan, like, do you think Democrats would go? They would go for it, right? They would have to. The base would demand it, of course. Yeah.
100%, because I can tell you what they would love to do before the midterms: oversight hearings. They would absolutely love to blow the lid off of some of this alleged corruption and unethical behavior, new behavior, as is the term I think some are using. If nothing else, if you are forcing people to have to come in to explain what, Trump yesterday talked about the ballroom. We still don't know who's given how much money, right? So they're just, I know you're going to roll your eyes, Sean, but it's uncomfortable, right? A candidate in a House race does not want to have to sit there where, let's say, if an AI data center is a huge issue in your district, and you're like, yep, Meta wrote I'm making this up. I don't know this to be fact. Meta wrote $30 million to the White House, right? It's just a tough thing. It's like, I don't want to talk about that. Yeah. So Democrats would take it lockstep and barrel.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I mean, look, I got to tell you, like, when you actually look at this, there's a rule in the House that governs interactions between members and employees in terms of, and this could be a big problem, because the reporting isn't just that this happened and he's denying it. The husband of this former staffer is saying, I don't blame her death and her suicide on Gonzalez, but yes, the affair was real.
And there's texts too, Sean. Before she died, she texted a fellow staffer and said, I had an affair with my boss, our boss. And so those are out there as well. So, and by the way, Gonzalez hasn't said a lot since this all came out. So one dynamic that I think is interesting, and we do need to move on this, is, like I said, it feels like people are trying to, when these things come up, people are trying to fight them now. There's a very stick it, say, I did nothing wrong, almost like a Trumpian sort of, I can survive this. And it'll be curious to see if he can, because Corey Mills, another
one last point, Rachel, which is the X factor, right? So Doug LaMaffa from California passed away suddenly, and that's another vacancy on the Republican side. And I only say this because you can come up with the best plan if you're Johnson, but God forbid, and I mean I say this, that there's just something could happen. Somebody gets breaks their leg and has to be out for 2 weeks, and suddenly, if I were Democrats, you go, hey, why not throw a vote up? And so there's some serious issues that I have a feeling somebody is sitting around nose deep in the House rules, talking about procedures and historical precedents, etc.
I know for a fact that is true. Okay, let's go to winners, losers, and watching. Let's do winners first. Dan?
Okay. My winner of the week is the family of Virginia Giuffre, that she committed suicide. She made all these allegations. At first, people were with Prince Andrew. Over the last, several years, the public has moved, but they're being kind of brought to tears that their daughter is kind of getting some form of justice, with Prince Andrew former Prince Andrew being held accountable. They're my winner of the week.
Yeah. Sean, good one.
I was going to just go with women's hockey because it was really cool to see them in Canada. But I have to go in a completely different direction. We talk a lot about the Supreme Court and some of the judicial cases that are coming down, the political impact, but there is a much bigger one, a bigger court case that did not get the attention that it deserves. And I'm finally glad to be able to shed some light on this massive case that Buffalo Wild Wings won this week.
Wait, what is it? Can you?
Yeah, see, exactly. They were sued by an individual that claimed that boneless wings are not wings. And
What?
Buffalo Wild Wings, there was a ruling in their favor that, yes, in fact, they can call boneless wings wings. And finally, I mean, I don't know, I don't want to set people off, but this is big now for the
You're
court.
setting me off. We order BW3s at least once every other week.
Are you a boneless
wings? Boneless wings. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't even know
that. Mango habanero boneless wings. It's our order always.
But you are clearly on the side of boneless. You would have applauded this case then, right? You are a fan of.
I love boneless.
This individual who sued them said you can't call them wings. You can call them nuggets. You can call them anything you want, but
they are kind of nuggets. Let's be honest.
They are nuggets.
Okay, we got to keep moving. My winner is the House Judiciary Committee's audio system. Okay, I want to pull up something. Actually, I'm going to tell you what this guy says. So Lex Wexner, former CEO of Victoria's Secret, obviously tied to Epstein. He has been called up to Capitol Hill to testify in this investigation, and his lawyer in the middle of this turns over to him and whispers something. Let's see if you guys can hear it. If not, I'll just read it to you.
It's regularly done. Okay, answer the question. 5 words, okay?
For those of you who missed
Answer
it,
the question. Okay.
for those of you who missed it, he said, "I'll effing kill you if you answer another question with more than 5 words." Okay. Just totally making the rounds on Twitter. People, number one, shocked that a lawyer would say that to his client in front of lawmakers. But this is going to be the new guide to how to handle communications, right? Just something fun. Okay, let's do losers now.
My loser is Pam Bondi. Not only is she continuing to get killed for the lack of accountability here in the United States over various folks' involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, but a giant banner was unveiled at DOJ yesterday. For those who have not seen it, it is your president's face draped over the Department of Justice. It is just, as several people have said online, boy, I can only imagine if Joe Biden or Barack Obama put their image in front of the Department of Justice. It's wild times. So for me, Pam Bondi is your loser.
Yeah, that was quite some. I should have called that up as an element, but I don't have it ready. Really something. Probably not a good idea, Sean, right?
What are you paying tribute to our president? What's wrong with
Yeah.
that?
Oh my gosh.
Wait until President Buttigieg is all over the
Yeah, wait.
Jim Jordan would be going nuts. Just nuts. Okay, who's your loser?
By the way, I will give credit. Bumps in our chat is putting out that that Canada is the big loser because between all the, it's actually a really good one. But I'm going writ large Democrats. I'll tell you why. I talk about monstrosities on buildings. I'm going to start. It's a 3-tiered loser. Obama's library. If you haven't seen the addition of this thing, you want to talk about an ugly facade. They've now added Babel. It's literally Babel to the outside of this presidential library in Chicago, which is disgusting. I mean, it's. Thank God he didn't want to build a ballroom, because who knows what it would have looked like. Take a look at the latest iteration. It's horrible. Then I'll go down to the state of Rhode Island, who literally just spent $70,000 misspelling the state's name on a rug and had to have it done twice. And I'll leave you with the Winchester, Virginia City Council that voted this week to save time by no longer having to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which I just found.
Is that a Democratic thing? Winchester's pretty conservative, I would think.
It's two of the counselors. I believe the Republicans voted against the motion. Everyone else in favor.
Old school Democrats there.
It was horrible. I mean, like the guise of like, we want to save time by 30 seconds not saying the Pledge of Allegiance is such a cop-out.
Yeah, I sent Dan and Sean both a video of my daughter, 3 years old, who now can say this Pledge of Allegiance. It's adorable. It's so cute. Side note.
Well, okay, you have to say it in Winchester.
Yeah. My loser of the week is Randy Fine, the Florida Republican, who is probably, I don't know if he's going to get censured. I am curious how Republicans are going to vote on this next week, but Democrats are going to force a vote at some point to censure him. He tweeted just a few days ago that if they force us to choose, the choice between dogs and Muslims is not a difficult one. Now, he was referring to a specific proposal by a more sort of extreme pro-Palestinian activist in New York who apparently wants to ban dogs from New York City, which is idiotic, let's be honest. But look, instead of criticizing the idea, he went after an entire religion, suggesting that maybe they're not as good as dogs or lower than dogs. And by the way, Megyn Kelly herself went after this guy. And
I don't think that's the standard. That
I know it's not. But like, look, she's not afraid of she's anti-woke and that sort of thing. And yet she was like, okay, this one, even for her, it went a little beyond the pale. So he's my loser of the week. Let's do what we're watching very quickly. Dan.
Well, I'm gonna dovetail on USA hockey men playing against Canada here in the semifinals. Hopefully they win. It's been a long time since the United States has won gold in men's Olympic hockey. So USA, let's bring home the gold.
Yeah, I think I would like to see. I mean, we mentioned it. The governors are in town this weekend. There's going to be a lot of mixing and mingling with the president, and I just feel like this is one of those times where those conversations yield something on one side or another or an issue. So Whether it's, I mean, it could even be about Iran or something where he says something to a governor. So I'm going to keep an eye on those conversations.
I'm going to be watching the GOP sort of midterm messaging clashes that are happening. When Susie Wiles and the team were over at the Capitol Hill Club this week, they talked about certain proposals that they want Republicans to emphasize. The problem is Republicans don't like a lot of them. The housing issues was one of them. This notion of barring big corporations from like buying back houses, like the credit card swipe fee cap, that's probably going to come up at State of the Union next week. And yet a lot of Republicans on the Hill just want nothing to do with them. So that's a midterm messaging clash that I'm going to be watching and probably writing about for my newsletter. Let's take a few questions. Okay. Will the cover-up of Biden's mental acuity still dog 2028 Dem candidates, or has so much happened since then that it won't matter much? It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It won't be a top 5 issue, but it will be an issue because I think Democrats' answers have been, I didn't know about it, which is in my opinion, totally not true. And I think given the preponderance of evidence here and with books and everything, that is not going to cut it. And if you want the electorate to trust you, you're going to have a better answer than that. And so I will be very curious, because don't forget, his book is coming out, Joe Biden's, later this year. So this issue is going to come back up.
Yeah. Let's take another one. Okay, you talk often about the best Dem presidential nominee contenders, but which of the so-called contenders currently has the best staff who can help lead the candidate?
Great question. I think there's two different things. There's Gavin Newsom has the best kind of social media war room around him, but that's not the entirety. Like you need to have some substance. You need to have a strategic game plan to get delegates. I would just say I would look at people who are running races right now and people who are able to pull off victories in really hard places that can take all their experience and roll it into the next one.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's take another one.
Take one for Sean here. And they're all.
Oh, Republican lady. Hello. Question for Sean.
Question
Here
for
you
Sean.
go.
There it is. All right.
Was Susie Wiles happy with Trump's stay in Georgia? Should she send him on a multi-state fast food joint meet and greet tour? He's great in those settings, better than factories. That's a great question.
Great call.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those guys who didn't see it, he was at it's hamburgers, I believe, at Varsity.
Yeah, it was hamburgers.
And he's just so good at retail politics. It's funny. I don't think he naturally would have wanted to do this back in the day, but he's like, it's just not, but he's so naturally good at it. And I always tell people, remember, this is a guy who, when you go back and watch the documentaries on Trump, like he's a casino owner, a hotel owner, a golf club, right? You're interacting with people all the time. How's your food? How's your room? And that's very Trump. He's always asking people, how about their experience, what they like. He's very, very good at that because of his background in business. So I think that's the to be honest with you, I love those moments. They always go viral. So it's like great for him I'm glad to see his team building those in, whether it's a Chick-fil-A or a Varsity or, he was at a restaurant in Iowa last week, a diner. I think they go really well. The other thing is, just to answer your question, when you say, was she happy? Susie has been around President Trump now going on almost 10 years. She was Florida State Director back in the day. She knows who he is. Like this idea that people Donald Trump is Donald Trump. He's been the same guy he's always been. Like you don't feel he's never going to change. He does what he does. He speaks like he speaks. So you don't ever go, God, I hope he totally changes and starts like, exactly who he is and what he's going to do. She knows him better than most people. So I don't think that like whether she's happy or not, I mean, he's out there. He has succeeded doing it his way and he'll continue to do it that way.
If I was his political team, every week when he does these little, stops around the country, I would do a fast food joint and you clip it, put on social, like make a whole thing out of it, like and reference it all the time. I think people love it.
You just said that Trump used to not like this why does he now? Why did he not? And why does he now? You think?
I think that it's not that I probably shouldn't say it that way. I don't think he saw the fully appreciated,
Yeah.
like the ROI. Like, what
Got
do you mean? I'm just going to walk through a diner or whatever. I think he now sees, because remember back in the day, and it wasn't too long ago that,
He rallies.
but also like he now sees the social media impact. Like, wow, I go do this, this goes viral. This happens, this goes viral. And when you grow up as he did, that you normally do an interview and then that's what gets you the media. Yeah. Now he realizes, wow, I go hang out at a diner and everybody talks about it. I don't have to sit down with some news, journalist type person. Yeah. So he has come to, I think, fully appreciate. And again, it's a testament to his team.
Yeah.
When you go look at how they've been able to take these clips and make them, go and then look at him and show him the metric. Wow, Mr. President, do you see that got 5 million views? He goes, okay, I get like the utility now.
Yep.
But there's also a testament to Trump that he ever the marketer, ever to the salesman, because I know a lot of candidates, you could say 5 million views. They'd be like, what is that? Who cares? Right. Whereas Trump is always thinking, what is hot? What is next? How are people getting in? That is a testament to him.
Yeah.
At that age.
Not everybody gets it. And that's the thing.
Yeah. Let's take another question. All right. John Patrick Clancy, question for the Q&A segment. Sean, as a self-proclaimed lover of good political stunts, who gets to claim the best stunt this week, not named Colbert? And when can we expect to see, is that Bannon? Yeah, Bannon on the Sean Spicer show.
Bannon is on March 5th.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
So that's an easy one. Good political stunt. Good question. Let's just think real quick. I mean, I just off the top of my head, we just talked about it. I think that the stop at Varsity yesterday in Georgia was really good because, again, it's not part of your, most presidents wouldn't stop and do something like that. They would do an interview or factory tour, and like he gets the utility of doing these worker visits. I don't even know, because it's not like I showed. I don't know if I showed you that clip of Grandma at the Black History event on Wednesday. To me, that wasn't a stunt. That was real, raw. She was fantastic. And it just drove. I mean, I don't know. It's a good. I love that question though, because I do love a good political stunt. I'm just trying to think. So I'll punt for now because we'll see. I think State of the Union will be interesting.
Yeah. By the way, the president just this morning, I'm pulling this up on my phone, he truthed that the Democratic shutdown cost the USA at least 2 points in GDP. So there you go. That's why they're doing it in mini form again. No shutdowns. Also lower interest rates. So blaming the Democrats. Somebody was just saying this to me.
Yeah, no, that's
the Democrats for the GDP numbers.
True.
Not my fault. Someone else. I thought maybe the illegals. By the way, because I'm getting absolutely pummeled. The USA plays Slovakia in the semifinals. Canada plays Finland. I don't know why I thought the US played Canada today. I was wrong. Thank you to all our Olympic hockey fans out there.
There you go.
I'm on 3.5 hours of sleep, and I screwed up.
Yeah, and by the way,
thank you for your attention to this matter.
Dan had 3 double espressos this morning.
Yeah, we're on 6. No. Apparently, we needed 8.
3. Let's take another question. We got time. Okay, here's Bumps. Question: during the State of the Union, will any Democrats stage any dramatics like Nancy Pelosi's ripping up of a speech? Perhaps a walkout? Absolutely, they're going to do something, right, Dan?
I hope not. I don't know. It's likely. Yeah. Sean made the point yesterday when what's his name? Joe Wilson yelled, "You lie." He got, followers and money came flowing in.
Yep.
I just think there's too much temptation to stand out and have a moment. I hope not. I wrote about it on Substack the other day. I hope they're professional adults.
The question is, who's it going to be? Like with Al Green, he was like the first one last time. But yeah, there's no doubt, 0 doubt that there will be some
there might, because you know what? They may not show up.
Nope.
Somebody
has to do it. There's just, I mean, it's way too incentivized.
To
do it.
For sure. All right, we're at time, 9:30. Sean, want to flag anything?
Benny Johnson on the show tonight, talking all things. Talking what we want to hear at State of the Union, affordability. So we'll have a fun time.
There you go. All right, guys, we will be back Monday, 8:30. Big week. I know we talked about the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago, but State of the Union is my Super Bowl, so I'm super excited about this. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the weekend.
Have a good one.